Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. As Sri Lanka's economy continues on its nosedive and the pilots are trying desperately to correct the course and avoid a crash landing, the hunt for dollars continues. But in Sri Lanka there are some companies who collecting dollars is second nature to them. And one such company, we shall feature the president, the Sacho in Japanese, of that company today. But he's no stranger to us. As one time, well, he's the leader of the Social Democratic Party of Sri Lanka. He's a member of the working committee of the SJB and a former presidential candidate, none other than Dr. Rohan Pallewatte. Very good evening to you, Dr. Rohan, and welcome.
Good evening. Very good evening.
Thank you. Then, you know, there's something that is absolutely extraordinary about you and your and the company that you work for. You're the president, or in Japanese, the Sacho of the Lanka harness.
Yes.
And it is this, that here's a Japanese investor who has basically a full ownership of Lanka harness, 100% ownership.
Yes.
But for the last 20 years, they've sort of placed their faith in you to can continue their operations.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely amazing that this small domestic company, sort of dealing with the local Japanese market, invested in Sri Lanka, and have managed to now export their products out of Sri Lanka to about 17 different countries.
Yes.
And ladies and gentlemen, the product that they make are sensors, impact sensors for the airbags and the seat belts in all our vehicles. And it's absolutely amazing. How did you manage to do it? Here's the company. Do they own 100%?
Yes, they do own 100%, but subsequently, initially they owned 100%, but then subsequently they transferred 50% of the shares.
Right.
Yeah, but I have to say, when it came to the initial investment, I did not contribute anything financially.
Right.
I was engaged in the management, at the management level.
And who did they transfer 50% of the shares to?
To Rohan Pallewatte, myself.
Oh, to you?
Yeah,
okay,
right,
all right,
yes.
okay.
Because there are only two directors in the company.
And who,
one Mr. Ito, the Japanese party, and myself.
I see, I
Yes.
see. So he's obviously very happy with you.
Yes, he is.
Are you happy with the present you got from them, 50% of the shares?
Well, even if I had not received it, I would have still been content with what I have already.
Right.
Because when they came to Sri Lanka, as you rightly said, they were a domestic company only supplying the Japanese market, the Toyota, Honda, and all the Japanese brands that is in Japan. But then I'm proud that I managed to take that company to another level, where now we are supplying to 17 different countries, and we have entered the European market, like we are supplying BMW, Aston Martin, Opel, Volkswagen, then in USA, General Motors, Ford and Chrysler. So I'm really taking pride of that.
I think the greatest pride then has to be that the Japanese investor, who I suppose ultimately holds the baby,
Yes.
that they have managed to export this product to Sri Lanka, to all the world's manufacturers of vehicles.
That's right.
And, but the interesting part is that all of these world-class manufacturers, like you have just mentioned, Aston Martin and Toyota and Honda and anyone that you can think about, that they place the impact sensor is probably the most critical component when it comes to saving somebody's life in the unlikely event of an impact.
Yes.
And so that sensor is made in Sri Lanka. And so all these companies are placing their faith in Sri Lanka. I think we need to be flying the flag every day.
Sure, and I think that we should pick from here to market Sri Lanka, saying that if the world conglomerates like Toyota, Honda, and then Chrysler, if they can entrust the lives of their customers to Sri Lanka, what else cannot they entrust to Sri Lanka? I think that should be a market slogan for the EDBO or whatever companies who are trying to market Sri Lanka as a destination for investment, especially for manufacturing, because we need some tangible manufacturing companies in Sri Lanka, because unless we have a tangible economy of at least 30%, we will always go through
30% of exports.
30% of the entire economy of our GDP.
Should be
manufacturing.
Right.
So when we rely too much on the service sector, it's so volatile. So COVID comes, then the tourism is out, then the bomb goes in Colombo, tourism is out. So but when it comes to manufacturing, now even right now, the exporters are bringing 12 billion to the country. Even despite the COVID situation, and even during the downturn of the economy, still the exporters have been resilient.
It's I continue to be fascinated with your product, the product of the company. What's the error rate, the standard of production?
It's called 1 part per million.
1 part per million.
Yes.
So per million units, you can make one mistake.
One mistake, and that is the highest level of quality anywhere in the world. It is beyond 6 sigma, and not only that, we have achieved this quality because if you are determined, you can look at the product and you can copy it, and you can closely scrutinize and achieve the end quality of one particular product. But to sustain it for over 20 years is not an easy task.
No.
So the quality is embedded in the process, and not only in the end product.
And how many people work in this factory?
Around 1,000.
1,000.
Yes.
So 1,000 people, all from the Gampar district?
Not only Gampar district. There are people from Jaffna, people from Matara.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So across the
yes,
citizenry.
that's right.
And so what kind of turnover we talk about?
$80 million US per annum. Yes.
And how much of that is retained in Sri Lanka?
I think $80 million US, and as you know, we are a Section 17 BOI company. Profits can be repatriated to the investing country, but so far, for the past 20 years, the investor has not requested any dollar to be repatriated to the country.
Why is that? Has he got too much of money?
Of course, he's a rich man,
okay.
and so he has kept the money. And of course, we have reinvested in because we started with 27 people. Because as I said, when we go to 17 different countries, we got to expand our business. So we have been reinvesting in the same business.
Right.
Yes.
And now it's being exported to 17 different countries.
Yes.
So you're clearly familiar with the need and how to bring dollars into the country.
Yeah.
And do you agree that Sri Lanka has been so impacted by corruption and a lack of focus, mismanagement and so on, that it has damaged brand Sri Lanka to a point of no return? Do you agree that it's been damaged to a point of no return?
Well, I think I have to agree with you, especially when it comes to corruption that is so prevalent, and it is denting into even the would-be investors that would come to Sri Lanka, because finally, even what we manufacture, if the macro economy is not handled properly, so there is a cost that even exporters like us will have to bear. So if we increase our overheads, and if we try to transfer that to the buyer, that we cannot sustain our business. So that is where the corruption becomes an issue for our exporter, because the corruption means an extra cost to the producer. So there should be, I think enough is enough.
Right.
We have to take a strict stand to curtail the corruption that's going on. And even the present change of government, Ranil Wickremesinghe being appointed president, it is my take that it is to sustain this corrupt system that he was placed as the president. So therefore, I believe, like the voice of the Aragalaya, they were the people.
I just want to make a legal point here. Dr. Pallewatte is making the point that that is his opinion. It's his opinion.
Yes. Because the voice of the Aragalaya, they were agitating for a cleansing of the system, so which was about to happen. But then they brought in one of their friends, the Pohoto people, and they made him the president. And once again, now they are intact, right? So
of course, it's constitutionally correct.
Constitutionally correct, but then that is another issue, right? They are using the constitution to safeguard the corrupt system. So that is where there is a deadlock, and we should find a way out of it.
How do you intend, as being a member of the SJB, how do you intend to address this very issue? How do you take this message out there to the people of the country? Because, you know, at every election, there'll be a section of people, us included, who will say, think, and think again before you cast your vote. But how do you explain to the public that corruption and mismanagement is why we are here today? Why it is that we have to be rationed to 20 liters of fuel, when clearly our economy will merely contract, and it makes life very difficult, the tourism industry in particular.
Yeah, I think right now the economic literacy of the people, I mean, through the suffering they have learned. So any party has much less to do than the previous elections. The people do understand at least one thing. It is because of the rampant corruption that they are going through difficulties during this time. So it will be very easy for a political party to explain this. I mean, you don't even have to explain, because people at least understand, fundamentally what has happened. And the next thing that will be very important for SJB is to place candidates, because this is the place where most of the corrupt politicians come in, because they get the nominations from one of the main parties, and the political structure is such they will get elected. So SJB is one party, I'm confident, will only give nominations to people who are of good repute and who has integrity.
Who would they give it only to people whose integrity has never been questioned?
Well, I cannot answer that question because I'm not the leader of the SJB, but as a leader of the Social Democratic Party, of course I will be pressurized in the SJB that the nomination only should be given to people with integrity. Because if we make small allowances, that accumulates, and once again the power transfers to the hands of a few corrupt people.
How important is integrity?
Integrity, I mean, it is not it is a sine qua non. It must be there.
It has to be.
It has to be there.
But sadly, if we look at our parliament, it's no secret. It's an open secret that several members of Sri Lanka's parliament their integrity has been questioned several times, and some of them have been awarded guilty verdicts by the courts. And some of them, in spite of all that, because of the quirks in the law, are still able to sit in parliament and legislate. How ironic and unjust is that type of democracy, when basically rascals are allowed to be the lawmakers, but they are the lawbreakers. Well, what's your take on that?
Well, that is where exactly I told. They are taking cover of the Constitution. And because we should not tolerate this kind of people. But on the other hand, as I told you, they will get nomination. Most of these people, even we detest most of the politicians that are in parliament right now. At least good 50% to 70% of them will be given nominations by their respective parties at the next elections. And the voter will get polarized before an election, and the votes are in these political structures, and they will secure a victory. So it is a vicious system that is there. So this is the kind of system we should find a way to bring an end to.
And what is that end?
I think that is what the Aragalaya the voice was coming out with. And they have also, certain propositions. For example, we must curtail election spending, because of course there is legislation even at now, because that is not being implemented. Because some of the presidential candidates, they've spent billions, 7 to 8 billion. But then how did they get that money? Right? So these are people who are contesting for the highest office, public office of the country, but they do not declare even how they received this funding. So when this political funding is not questioned, people who has ill-gotten money, they throw their money to win the vote. So, but if we can curtail that, because even in Bangladesh right now it is strictly implemented. I think they cannot spend more than 30,000 taka. So even in India, I think I learned that from the next election, they are going to have an officer behind every candidate who's going to contest, and they are going to monitor how much they are going to spend. If you spend more, you are going to lose your seat. You can't say someone else did it for me, and so on. So even in Sri Lanka, first thing is this election spending law should become strictly implemented if we are to do away with corruption. And if some...
You talk about electoral funding, right?
Yes, that's right.
About the funding.
Yes.
So, be that all as it may, what, as part of this core group of advisors to Mr. Premadasa, to Sajid Premadasa, leader of the SJB, who will be arriving on our program, we hope, next week. With all that, what is your advice to Mr. Premadasa and to the rest of your colleagues? Do you want a situation where the economy is allowed to contract and then you go about addressing inflation, or would you go for an American sort of monetary policy where you're going for growth, where the eye on the ball is on employment creation, and then you address inflation? Which?
Well, I would rather go for the growth.
Right.
Because recently I saw the governor of the central bank talking about the contraction of the economy for us to come out of the present economic morass. But then he said SME sector will have to take a hit, because if we cannot step in to save the SME sector, if we do so, because they had to cut down more than 3,000 plus items by a special gazette, the importation. And what he says, if we try to protect the SME sector, we will not have the money to fund the minimum requirement level of fuel, food, and so on. So that is why they cannot look at the SMEs at this moment. But I have the quite a view that is against that. That is, I believe, because these SMEs did not come into being overnight. It has taken years and a lot of painstaking individuals have come up and built these. And even if they are exporting or not exporting, even if they are local companies, there is an entire ecosystem that makes their livelihood through that. So if you kill the SME sector, the government, when they decide to revive it, they cannot do it. Because it has to be organic. It is the individuals who will decide whether to invest or whether to start their own businesses. And if we send the wrong message now, there will be no investor, no new person who will be thinking afresh of starting new businesses in Sri Lanka. If the SME sector is powered, on the other hand, this money that they bring into the country certainly will cascade down to the bottom of the pyramid. But if we kill the SME sector and try to resolve only the existing issue of providing the basic necessities, how long can we sustain? Because after all, there should be revenue generation in the country. Because without revenue generation, we cannot think of any solution. So therefore, I believe it's the American style. I as an entrepreneur think of the growth factor. As a company, I have been having a record of year-on-year growth of 10%, and even for a country, even at trying times like this, you should focus on growth and nothing but growth, and you should not try to say we are going to, cut down because most of the items that are in that list, they are not consumables. Only 20% are consumables. Others are capital goods which are required by SMEs for their manufacturing, the intermediaries. And they do the value addition here, in any country for that matter. There is no 100% value addition done in countries today. Because today it is global production sharing. Only fraction value addition happens in a country.
I know that in Sri Lanka there's some, with these latest sort of bans on imports, it appears that underinformed and ill-informed students are probably doing this, because we have one case which I'm very much aware of, where the rules allow you to bring these molds in, but the stuff that goes into the molds is banned, and that to me sounds as though they've just looked at some old records and said, look, we've imported so many of these, just ban them. That's done without any thought. But we'll come back to all this after this short break, in which we look at this evening's headline news from the primetime news team. We'll see you on the other side of the break, shall we?
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat.
And very good evening to you again. This is Newsline Live, and welcome back. My guest this evening is Dr. Rohan Pallewatte, who is, of course, the leader of the Social Democratic Party of Sri Lanka and a member of the SJB, working committee member of the SJB. During the run-up to the last presidential elections, which you were a candidate, you did say that we had concerns then about our debt, and you did say that the best thing to do would be to borrow money long term at low interest rates, I think from Japan, for example, and then settle the high interest loans and then balance it all out. Is that that was a uncanny prediction, or was it an uncanny prediction?
Well, I had my own analysis. I think I made this statement back in 2017, that's 5 years ago. And because when we looked at the debt portfolio of the country, and especially the external debt, and when the premium became annual, what we had to pay annually became $5 to $6 billion US dollars, and knowing that we are a $80 billion US dollar economy, and anyone can understand that's going to be a strain on the economy. So that is when I thought that we must, even you and I, if there is a personal loan that we have obtained, and all of a sudden you have to send your child overseas for studies, and you can't, meet that premium monthly commitment, and then you request the bank to, stretch what you have borrowed. So it's not easy for a country, as a personal loan. So because, for example, if 10 countries have given you money, one country, we can't ask one single country to restructure the debt, because they will say, okay, we would restructure, but using that facility you will service the other countries, which they will not like. So there should be a uniform statement by all the people who have given us money, owners of the debt to this country, uniform statement. And in order to get this uniform statement, there had to be a lot of background work. The president of the country, the office of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, they have to work what is called, we call it lobbying, go to these countries, talk to them and explain the situation. And it was easy but at the time that I pronounced it, because our credit rating was very good, and we were in a good position to bargain. And then second thing that I brought this matter up in 2017 is that, as you know, countries like India, Japan, who belong to the Paris Club, I mean, there's an internal agreement that they would talk about, restructuring a debt with a country that they have given money, will be only at the Paris summit, right, Paris Club. So it happens only once a year. So therefore, I envisaged, I saw what was going to happen unless we took precautions, and that is when I told I tried to bring the attention of the authorities that we have to do a debt restructuring at that point, before our credit ratings came down and the present morass that we are in.
Of course, the Paris Club, it doesn't include the larger lenders, does it?
Yeah, but I think including Japan is when it comes to ODA, Overseas Development Assistance. So far, Japan is the biggest lender to Sri Lanka. Yeah, even
more than
China.
Oh, really?
Yes.
If
you take the cumulative sum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Over the years.
Over the years, yes.
But currently, in our current loan book, it would be China.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Because
the loans given by Japan were very long term, whereas China it was short term. So that is why their payments are recurring sooner than what we have to pay Japan. Yes.
We have a new president. We have the runaway president come back. Hopefully into retirement, we still don't know. But in all these, can you hazard a guess what kind of penalty did Sri Lanka pay in its negotiations with the IMF? I mean, this money is not for nothing. It's not summa money,
Yes.
We have to pay back. What kind of penalty did we pay in terms of higher interest premiums or insurance premiums or in higher conditionalities to address corruption?
Well, I think the IMF, I think they are going to roll out within 4 years what they have promised. So it's a very negligible amount that, just to stabilize the economy, that they are giving these in tranches. I think at least 8 tranches that they will pump the money to the country. But only thing is there are certain requirements by the IMF, because unless there is fiscal discipline, and especially the person from the IMF, the staff level person who was present here, at the conclusion, I saw the video, that he particularly refers to corruption. Unless this corruption is controlled and it is not transparent, the finances are not transparent, then still, although what they have promised may not come to the country if the corruption is not curtailed.
So corruption, they must be aware of the high level of corruption in this country.
Of course, because the IMF, I mean, of course, they are experts. They will go through. I mean, of course, they prepare their own country report.
Yeah.
So they go through all what is the data, and they do the analysis, and they just don't come out with off the cuff conclusions. So we will have to curtail, or because the corruption that is rampant. And actually, that is it is because of corruption that we are in the present situation, because most of the money that was supposed to go into development of the country has not gone into pockets of the private entities. So that is why the country is in this present predicament. Unless if you take all the trillions of money that we have taken, and if they have been invested properly, we wouldn't have been in this present predicament.
Here's a question from a viewer. Thank you very much for all your questions. Please ask Dr. Pallewatte if he agrees with the following to cut down election corruption. 1, 100% first past the post system, and 2, independent panel from professional bodies to scrutinize all contestants for approval to be eligible. Was that a good start, do you think?
I think that scrutinizing by a professional body is a very good suggestion. And what was the other one?
Whether the first past the post system.
Well, I have a question mark in my mind. I got to deliberate very seriously upon that, because the moment you bring that, certain minorities may not have their representation in parliament. So that is a worry that I have. So the proportional representation system, of course there are certain negatives, but with all that, we see even a small party can get 1 or 2 seats because of the number of votes that they get.
With your company and your investors been very happy for the last 20 years, what chances are there for some reverse investment in Sri Lanka's most challenged areas, including the Vanni, the site of the former conflict area?
Well, of course, we have even right now we have done reverse investment, but not in the areas that you mentioned. So we will take a serious look. Actually, we have recruited youth from Jaffna and the areas like Vanni. So that is what we have done so far. So, but we can seriously look at the possibility of taking some manufacturing facility to.
Are there
these areas.
specific plans with the SJB once they receive the people's mandate to specifically address these very challenging areas in our country?
Thank you for asking this question, because I have never seen a leader preparing for governance as much as Sajid Premadasa, because he had appointed 36 different committees, education, agriculture, and to present to him the different policy options available. And this has been concluded by now. It's not that he's doing it, he's about to do it. He has just, and some people are very, people not with political motivations, who are experts in that particular fields, were in these committees. And I was also part of this group, and I was amazed as to the level of engagement that the leader of the opposition had, Sajid Premadasa, had with these people, these groups. And he would come and be with these groups, and he would chair these meetings.
Yeah.
And he was so passionate about it. So I have never seen, because, and also I respect him for the fact, because as you raised the question, what is that kind of advice that I am giving to Sajid Premadasa? So far you can see he has not, under tremendous pressure, he has not joined the corrupt lot. He is holding on to his principles, he is holding on to his integrity.
Dr. Rohan Pallewatte, it's been enjoyable talking to you. Thank you very much for being on Newsline Live. It's now time for the primetime news. But just to remind you that tomorrow we have the CEO of EFL, Mr. Hanif Yusuf, as our guest tomorrow at the same time on TV1 at 8:30. In the meantime, just ahead of the primetime news, let me wish you all a very good evening, and as always, God bless you all.